Over the past few weeks, I've been reading a lot of books to gain more clarity on different subjects. There is so much that I feel needs to be discussed before this ministry's time is over. But that's how I feel. It's all about what our Father says. Because while I have all this information I feel that needs to be discussed, Father has placed something very specific on my heart that He has urged me to say this week that has nothing to do with the subjects I've been covering. Many of us are awake to what is happening in the world today. And though we cannot set dates and give you specifics and exacts, the way the world is shaping up definitely brings caution to many of us in the way that we engage with it. Many of us have an urgency in our spirit to prepare in different ways. And while many of us are growing in our awareness and confidence in our faith, the enemy still is causing many of us to slip into doubt, fear, and worry because of our children. The devil is causing us to stumble in our faith because he's attacking us in different ways with our children. I've been dealing with the thought about my children in these end times for a long time. Because while I knew we were headed towards these prophetic events of the book of Revelation and Daniel, I knew that I couldn't live and raise them according to the timeline that I might have set up and stop life for them. So for me, it's been about a decade living in reality of the way the world is and what we are approaching. And throughout all that time, in regards to raising my children, there has been a lot of different thoughts I had to rebuke, feelings that I had to deal with, actions I had to take, spiritual warfare I had to engage in, and trust that I had to build, which has brought me to a place today of confidence in preparing myself for the end times, particularly with having the proper mindset for keeping my children ready. If you ask me what my goals are, they have always been the same: to make sure that myself, my wife, and my children are ready for Father whenever He calls. That has been my goal. And while preparing myself was not easy, it definitely was easier than preparing my children. But through Father's help, He has assisted me where I have peace today, and it really is essential if we are going to be ready for Him. Because when your peace is stolen, you allow other emotions like fear, worry, and doubt to come in. And those spirits are just about reducing your faith, and that cannot happen. So while many of you are building up your own faith, I want to help you build more strength and trust when it comes to your children. Let's begin. Okay, so for me, I feel I can speak to parents in a lot of different situations because I have children in all different age ranges. I have 4 sons. My oldest is 23, number 2 is about to be 20, number 3 is 11, and number 4 is 1.5 going on 10. And the situation is different for all of them. So I can speak to many different parents in case you want to say that I wouldn't understand you because our children are different ages. So let me just talk about them as a whole. As I raised my children, my older children's situation is much more different than my younger children. My awakening didn't really start occurring till number 3 was born. My oldest ones were already engaged in the world and were like every other child in America, spoiled and worldly. As I began waking up, Father placed certain urgencies on me when it pertained to them. I knew number 3 wasn't going to go to public school, but I didn't know what I was going to do with him because I couldn't afford private school, and as I was learning, there really wasn't a great deal of difference between public and private school anyway, for the reasons I didn't want him to go. In raising them, I remember distinctly to this day when I realized I had to make a change with all of them. I was not strict in my dealings with the world the way I am today. I remember one day I was driving my older boys to school, and I had just brought Jay-Z's Blueprint 3 album, and I was bumping it heavy in the car. In the car, I really vibe out to my music, spitting the lyrics like I'm the lyricist, not fully ever thinking about my children. But as I was driving in the car and saw my boys, the older one in particular was in the back vibing just like me, talking about, "We gon' run this town tonight," riding with the Dillingers. And I'm looking in the rearview seat. I realized that that wasn't right, and that was because of me. I influenced that. It wasn't just Jay-Z, it was me. Now, in the movies, you would hear that the person automatically got things right from that day and made the necessary changes, but that was not the case. The point from that whole scene was me knowing that what I was used to as a child may not be right for them, and if it wasn't right for them, then it wasn't right for me. I am responsible for these boys in all aspects. My job was not to just get them through high school so they can go to college and be slaves to the elite. My job is to prepare them for Father. And that was the overall mission that took a few years to come together, and with a lot of challenges along the way. As I grew in my relationship with Father, I grew better in managing the responsibilities of being a father who was a believer. There was no safe havens for me. Not in the schools, not in my family, not in the social organizations, and not in the churches. And that was a place we tried many times because it just seemed like that was the natural answer. Bring them to church. But it was not. Do not expect to hide your children in the modern day churches, as that will be their refuge. The churches, who are trapped in many different wicked, idolatrous ways, can place your children in worse bondage than if they never went to church, because they can teach conformity along with self-righteousness that is so hard to break. So, as I was growing up in my faith with Father and seeing where the world was going and what was to come, I don't remember ever feeling really scared for what was going to happen to my children. If those feelings ever came about, I remember rebuking them immediately and asking Father what I was to do about my children. The guidance I received in dealing with my children is the first thing that I want to impress upon you. And if you don't take anything else from this video, please take this. Do not worry about what will happen to your children in the end times, like as far as if they will be protected in the chaos, will they be forced to take the mark of the beast, will they be strong enough to reject the Antichrist, what if you lose them, etc., etc. Those are real thoughts, I know, but you must leave those thoughts and put them away. Those are things you must give to Father. In regards to your children in the end times, I do not know what exactly will happen with them. I've searched the scriptures looking for something definitive, like, will all children be spared? Something like that. And while I do have my own view, it's not definitive, so I won't share it. But I was not allowed to worry for my children and what will happen with them. This is all that I was given in my spirit. Focus on raising those boys and knowing me. Keep them from the evil one. Protect them and grow them up in me and not in the ways of this world. That was what I was given, and that was what I was focused on with my boys. And that's what I want you to remember. I mean, there were challenges with all of them, with their different ages and personalities, but raising them up in Father was my only focus. So my first message to you is not to worry about what will happen to your children in the future in regards to the end times. What you want to focus on is raising them up in our Father and His ways. You want to keep them from the ways and mindsets of this world. You want to protect their minds and their hearts. If you focus on this as a parent, then dealing with the world that is coming will be a lot easier to handle. If you raise them up and keep them in Father's hand, you have nothing to worry about. And so make that your goal. Focus on building your children up in the ways of our Father in heaven and keep them as unspotted from the world as possible. And for those that just had children and they are too young to make a decision for whether they will trust and live in Father or not, I do not believe that you need to think about them at all. Don't worry about them. Just keep raising them right, because you never know when Father is going to call us. While for my older boys, I had to really think about them because I was taking them out of the world. Number 3, I was never putting in the world. And early on in my time, I thought we would be with the Father a long time ago. But my analysis was incorrect. And if I didn't continue focusing on number 3 and keeping him raised up in our Father, regardless of my timeline, he would be the most lost, because the world is coming specifically at his generation the hardest. And number 4, right now, we're just following the same plans, keeping him out of the world and raising him in the ways and mindsets of our Father. I am seeking for myself, my wife, and my children to be accepted and found well in the eyes of our Father. Proverbs chapter 22, like other chapters in Proverbs, is full of wisdom. But verses 1 through 6 of chapter 22 really sum up the mindset and focus all parents should have. It says, "A good name is to be chosen rather than great riches, loving favor rather than silver and gold. The rich and the poor have this in common: Yahweh is the maker of them all. A prudent man foresees evil and hides himself, but the simple pass on and are punished. By humility and fear of Yahweh are riches and honor and life. Thorns and snares are in the way of the perverse. He who guards his soul will be far from them. Train up a child in the way he should go, and when he is old, he will not depart from it." Please write these verses down and live completely through them. Choose having a good name, being found well in the sight of Yahweh, over living for this world and accumulating its wealth and riches. Don't only make that a goal for yourself, but the goal for your children as well. A wise man or woman sees evil coming and hides themselves from it. That is not only in regards to yourself, but in regards to your children as well. See evil and hide from it. Now listen, by humility and fear of Yah are the real riches, honor, and life. That really is what life is all about, living for Yah. There are traps set for those who do not live with that understanding. But if you do, and you live for our Father, your soul will be far from them. Lastly, if you train up a child in the way he should go, when he is old, he will not depart from it. So obviously the mission and future of our children is all about us and how we are raising them, protecting them, and keeping them. Now, none of this is easy. Let me just use my children as examples. For number 1 and 2, they were challenges because I was taking them out of the world. My advice, if you're able to do so, is to take them out of formal education and homeschool them. When in the system, you lose a sense of control and authority over your child's mind. That is actually what the school system, whether public or private, that's what it was created for. So that the state is the guardian and authority over your child's mind, and you're just the assistant helping make sure the programming sticks. This is another topic I must go more in depth in. But you must make certain sacrifices to keep them. Maybe you need to downsize your home. One parent doesn't need to work. Move in with your parents. I understand everyone's situation is not the same. And do not feel judged or powerless if you're not able to take these steps. You just need to be more diligent in finding out what they are learning, who they are following, and being influenced by, etc., etc. Again, this is something too deep to discuss by itself. But if you can, you should homeschool. And the way that this wicked world is shaping, you are now having an opportunity to do this because of their COVID scapegoat. A lot of families right now are homeschooling because of COVID. If you are able to, take the opportunity to do so as well. But for me, I took my boys out of school. My oldest I pulled out of high school, and number 2 out of middle school. And there were so many challenges that occurred with that. You were dealing with family that doesn't necessarily agree with homeschooling. You are dealing with worldly pressures because you want them to be able to fend for themselves in this world on their own as men. So they need to have a skill. You don't want them to be weirdos, though no matter what, they will be weird compared to all other children who are of this world. You want them to have friends, but they can't be with the wrong ones. You want them to believe in and trust Father, but you don't want them to present Him because they were taken out of this world and are so different than everyone else. You don't want them to be like the stereotypical pastor's children who, when they get older, always seem to be the worst and most unruly adults. There are so many challenges. I just wish I had a cookie-cutter answer to all this, but all I can say is trust in Father and be very active in your children's lives. I always ask questions and look to catch them off guard. And that whole privacy thing was not a thing in my home. I never liked closed doors in my home. The biggest thing I can say as a parent is to stay consistent and do not be a hypocrite. Don't bend at times because it just seems easy, because it creates confusion. Be the same all the time with the same standards all the time. Also, while you reprimand and take things away, make sure you explain the reasons why, and always act in love. Make sure they know you're doing this in love. I did keep them from a lot. Absolutely no social media. I struggled with these smartphones for a long time. I realized that they were a very evil product, and most of these children should not have them until they're at an age where they're able to make the right decisions on their own. My motto for them was, I am keeping things from you until you're mature enough and strong enough in your faith to handle these things. Number 1 and 2 never really took that message and guidance, and so they kept rebelling and hiding things. But Father always gave me discernment with things, and He would unveil things to me. And as I look back at all those times where He unveiled things to us, I can see where He really caught them before they went too far. There is so much I could say. What I will say is that because I took them out of the schools and out of the world, it was hard for them to cope with it in the beginning, and they wanted to ignore much of my advice. For me, it was hard to deal with because I was being rejected by my family and friends on the outside, and then you find that you're being rejected by your children on the inside. And sometimes my wife didn't have the same sense of urgency or even really understand many of the decisions that I had to make in keeping them out of the world. But they all had to be done. And where we are at today, I can say I am very proud of my children. They are far from perfect, but they are nothing like what I see from others in their age group. My biggest desire is for them to find women that match them right now. But they are great boys, not of this world. Well, that's what I hope and what they show me. but you never really know what's deep inside their hearts and what they're hiding from you. I trained them to be men. I trained them both to prepare for the future that is ahead and keep themselves undefiled from this world. So I never wanted them to go to college because I didn't think it was necessary for their future. And now today there are articles confirming those things I had feelings about 5 years ago. I have them all learning coding skills and programming languages, as this is the major field I see in the world transition. Even my 11-year-old, I have focused on this. I am still the opinionated father, but at this time with them, I have to trust that they understand what I was trying to do with them and that they will be ready for father whether I am here or not here. I've done my job with them, and now their lives are in their own hands. Now, number 3 is different. I've kept him out of the world since he was born. Things are different for him because I was keeping him from things and explaining things as we grow. He is an extremely truly woke 11-year-old. It's very funny because I have to teach him how to have a filter with all that way of thinking and know his audience. I have kept him from a lot. We were protecting his innocence. We have shielded him from the world as much as possible, and I feel very good about the decisions that we've made with him. He reads his Bible every morning, at least 1 chapter per day, and he knows how to tie in the Bible to his life, which is very important. There are give and takes with everything, because he doesn't have a social life outside of the family, but he does have big brothers and a cousin his age range that is a good supplement for it. But things aren't exactly what I would want for him or my other boys. I want them to grow up around other families that believe the same and are focused on serving our Father. But we are all scattered around the world. In raising them, I had to reshift my focus with being a parent away from the way that we were all taught as we grew up. Again, my concern is not making my children high achievers in the way that the world deems it, but allowing them to move with a sound mind, undefiled from this world. Not moving in the liberal ways this world promotes to them, but being able to be set apart and be different. In raising our children, one of the most important parts is to stay as a family and don't let other things raise them more than you do. Do things as a family. Whether it's the school, their friends, their entertainment, etc. Don't let those things be the biggest influencer more than you. Eat together as a family. Talk together as a family. Do Bible study together. Give them space to grow, but not too much space for them to effectively hide their rebellion. Don't worry about your children and what will happen to them in the end times in regards to Satan and his agenda. Do not allow yourself to lose your faith and trust in our Father because of the fear Satan is promoting to you. If you want to focus on something, focus on your battle with keeping them undefiled from this world without them having resentment on the Most High for being so different than everyone else. Focus on keeping your children ready for Him as their generation becomes the most godless, rebellious generation in history. Do not fear for their physical lives. Be concerned about their souls and knowing who they serve and why. Raise them up to be stewards of our Father's kingdom. You cannot shield them from everything, so the most important thing to do is to teach them and explain to them the whys and have constant conversation with them. It's better to take things from them than to allow them to be attached to bondage that will drag them down. In the age of technology, you must be diligent to know what they are doing online. Even if they're teenagers, that doesn't give them the ability to use these things in rebellion of the Most High. And you should know that these devices that they have were made to promote rebellion. So you must be very diligent in how you let them use these things. Number 3 has a computer because he has to do schoolwork, but he has a flip phone in order to call us if he needs us. I use parental controls with everything, and I'm very diligent with what I allow them to see. The world wants to take the innocence away from our children as early as possible. And what you want to do is to preserve it. Watch the video games they play. The PlayStation and Xbox games are filled with pure evil. Do not allow them to play those games. Just go to GameStop and look at the games that come with those systems, and you will see just plain evil. Our jobs as parents is to present them to our Father and raise them up in His instruction. The world wants us to forget that, and it wants us to raise them up in their standards, which is all about rebelling against the Most High. So in raising our families, you have to make a decision of what is most important to you and then stand by it. This is not an easy task, but it is absolutely necessary. In doing this will come a lot of separation and rejection from this world. Don't feel that you're being extra because you're doing things differently than everyone else around you. Know that you're doing the right thing. Also, don't feel bad about the missteps that will happen with them either, because they are children and they will make mistakes. But if you just stay consistent, they will be ready later. Pray for your children and with your children. Watch the company that they keep. You can raise them 100% perfect. Not possible, just an example. But even if you do everything right in your home, if you do not monitor their friends and their influences, you can lose them without you even knowing. The most important thing I want to impress upon you is to be diligent when raising your children today. Do not worry about the collapse and the events that transpire during the end times. Be more concerned about their souls. Make sure that they are truly covered under our Father. That is your priority. As he commanded Israel, we must do. And these words, which I command you today, shall be in your heart. You shall teach them diligently to your children, and shall talk of them when you sit in your house, when you walk by the way, when you lie down, and when you rise up. That's Deuteronomy chapter 6, verses 6 and 7. Also, children, obey your parents in the master, for this is right. Honor your father and mother, which is the first commandment with promise, that it may be well with you, and you may live long on the earth. And you, fathers, do not provoke your children to wrath, but bring them up in the training and admonition of the master. Ephesians chapter 6, verses 1 through 4. Brothers and sisters, many of us have different homes. Two-parent homes, single-parent homes, families with resources, families without. We are all doing what we have to do. None of it is easy. Make raising your children under the Most High the priority above all else, even if it feels different because it's opposite everyone else. Know that making them set apart is making them holy. Don't worry about what you don't have and focus on what you do have, and let Father guide you in how he wants to protect them and guide them. Sacrifices always must be made, but do it for him and not to please the world and your children's flesh. Do not let your children become your idols that you misappropriate your mission and purpose for them. All of us watching this must guard and protect our children, and even those that are not our children. Don't worry about the end times. Focus on their souls and their relationship with the Most High. Make sure they believe in Yahshua and can tell you why. Baptize them when they are ready. If they are young children, they should not be baptized yet. They should be baptized when they know what they're doing. Be encouraged and of good cheer. We are victorious. And though we have all made mistakes parenting, that comes with the job. Continue to press on and grow your children for our Master. Raise them with the principles found in the Word and not by the world. We are set apart, and though it is harder to steer them away from the currents, it really is our job to do so and continue to make a remnant for our Father. Please continue to press forward, but do not worry about your children. Trust in our Father for his protection and guidance. Guard them for our eternal treasures. These children are our responsibility collectively. Let's raise this remnant for the Most High together. Be blessed. Okay. Thanks again for watching. If this has blessed you, please don't forget to like this and share it with others. If you have not done so already, please don't forget to subscribe to this channel. Elohim willing, I upload every Friday. Don't forget to follow this ministry on Facebook and Instagram, as well as on my website, truthunedited.com. As always, I really would like to thank all those who support this ministry. You know who you are. Your contributions have been an extreme blessing to this ministry, and I'm very thankful for you. Thank you for being a blessing and your continued support to this mission. Okay, thanks again everyone for watching. I love you all.